All right, here we go, and we're live. It's the Flopbuster Movie Show. Let's see. Let's get started here.
Absolutely.
We're getting we're streaming this, we're getting things set up for Instagram Live, which is streaming on Victoria's and on Gabe's over in the corners here. Welcome, guys, to the all new episode of the Flopbuster Movie Show. A very exciting episode, one I've been looking forward to for the past 2 weeks. Just to give a little bit of a backstory before we run down some news, which I've gotten on my notes here. We've been wanting to do a classic films episode for a while. I have. I
don't really like classic movies.
No, which is like the perfect way for me to introduce you to some favorites, some classics, films that I curated and just picked based upon my personal taste, but also like what everybody loves too. But I wanted to pick really fun ones, and I knew you would have some type of opinion on, good or bad. So we're gonna get down into that. Very exciting. Excited to hear what you have to say because I haven't really talked to you much about your opinion.
No, I've kept everything close to the vest as far as these movies are concerned because I know you were excited to get my thoughts about what was going on with these classic movies. So I didn't really want to give away too much.
Yeah, so I'm excited to hear what Gabe has to say. I also rewatched most of them. The only one I didn't rewatch was The Wizard of Oz. A few months ago, I was able to rewatch that, and I've seen it at least once every couple of years, every so often. It's one of my mom's favorite movies, so that one is a personal favorite of mine.
Which I have a lot of thoughts about Wizard of Oz.
These are, a lot of these movies are definitely of their time, and even if they are classics, it's interesting to hear what you'll have to say as somebody who didn't grow up with any of these, doesn't know much about any of these. No. So I am 100% excited. But first of all, Gabe,
yes,
as we start every show, what have you seen this week?
Nothing but old ass movies. What the fuck?
Yeah, same.
I mean, with work and stuff coming off, getting off work late, I've been nothing watching about old movies, trying to catch up on everything. There's a bit of like good news though, like as far as movie news is concerned, that I want to touch base on you because I love Rob Zombie.
Yeah, right.
And The Monsters is gonna be rated PG, which I'm like excited for. Like really I thought excited. We could get like maybe an R Monsters because it's Rob Zombie, which I would be totally down for an R-rated Monsters. Freaking Lily Munster gets all naked and all sexy, but we keeping it PG this time. So I'm excited to see what Rob Zombie is gonna do with a PG movie.
I think he's going to do great. And I've been, I'm not the biggest Rob Zombie fan. And I know, but I love The Devil's Rejects, which I will 100% claim that is an awesome movie. And better be positive thoughts on The Wizard of Oz, Julian says. I know, right? And I also really like The Lords of Salem as well. I think those are two movies where his vision is completely
all realized. His movies.
But what great. I will say is I really love The Monsters. And I got a chance to watch some of the straight-to-DVD and video stuff, too, from the 90s, which was a lot of fun. I'm so much looking forward to this movie, and I want it to be PG. I want a PG, classic, Halloween special Monsters movie a la Rob Zombie. And the cast that he's put together is pretty fantastic.
Absolutely.
We have Elvira Cassandra Peterson in it, which is going to be really cool. He's got a lot of Rob Zombie regulars. Sherry Moon is Lily Zombie, or Sherry Moon is Lily Munster is an
That's
obvious
why I
choice,
see
but
sexy
I feel like who else would he get? Of course he would get her, and she's very much the modern equivalent of what that character was in like the horror community.
Right.
So
well, I mean, because she had that aesthetic look in the
and he's a
Living
huge
Dead
fan.
Girl music video.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And he's talked about at length, I want to make a Monsters movie. So I think I have a really good feeling about it. And one of the examples I always use for people is Eli Roth. I don't know if you saw the movie The House with the Clock in Its Walls.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I thought it was a really fun. Yeah, it was a fun kids movie. Jack Black, Kate Blanchett. So hardcore horror directors know how to have fun, make family affair too. So no, I'm with you on that one. I'm super excited for it. And it's going to be a Peacock original movie too. So
nice.
Get to watch that in the comfort of our homes around Halloween. So I think it's gonna be pretty awesome.
So I'm excited for that. Also, one of my most anticipated movies of the year, which is going to be Aquaman, got pushed till next year. So that's going to be most anticipated for 2023.
The entire DC slate got pushed. Yeah, I have a really good feeling about the Monsters. Thank you for joining us. Connor's in here. We got Julian and Connor. It's going to be really, really good.
Right.
And to double back on the DC lineup, everything got pushed back. which I read.
Except Shazam, which got pushed up
To December. And it's going up against Avatar 2.
That comes out like a week after.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe DC doesn't have that much faith in the new Shazam. But
again, I feel like if you're putting any movie near Avatar 2, you watch out. And I think a lot of people are really underestimating it. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not the biggest fan of that first movie, but none of us can deny when that movie comes out.
Oh, Shazam or Avatar?
Oh, Avatar. When Avatar comes out, it's going to make a crap ton of money.
Oh yeah,
like a ridiculous amount of money.
I'm a huge Avatar fan. I wish I could ride one of those blue.
I don't get why anyone cares about Avatar 2, honestly. You know what? And a lot of people feel that way. What is Avatar? Got Jesse in here.
That's when you go on your computer and you like select your character to like sort of resemble you. That's an avatar.
Avatar doesn't have the most original story, but definitely the effects revolutionized the industry. The Last Airbender. No, not that movie.
That's terrible movie.
That is a terrible movie.
Great cartoon series.
Yeah, that's a bad movie. So Avatar 2 is going to make a ton of money. Shazam 2, I really love the first Shazam. I had so much fun with it, and it captures the spirit of that character really well. But yeah, every DC movie has been pushed back. The Flash, The Flash has been pushed back so many times. And Black Adam 2, which is a movie that's been in development since like 2009.
They're done shooting.
Yeah.
Rock said that he was done shooting that.
Yeah, he's done shooting it, which it looks really good from the footage.
Footage in the Batman.
There was footage in the back. But yeah, they just promoted all the DC movies.
They did.
Shazam, more like Skazam.
Okay.
So yeah, all the DC movies are being pushed back. There's a couple of things I want to run down real quick that I took note of. Obi-Wan, are you excited for it? Did you watch the trailer? Is it really something that you'll check out? Looking forward to?
Yes and no. Like, I like Star Wars, and I like the mythology of Star Wars. I watched 1 through 9. I'm not big on the we started watching The Mandalorian. We didn't finish it.
Yeah. So you're not big on the serialized, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not big on the serialized format of them. Yeah.
And I really love The Mandalorian. I still got to watch the Book of Boba Fett, which I'm sure is good. I love Robert Rodriguez. I know a lot of people are hating on it, but I'll wait and see. I'll catch up with it.
I mean, I know Jon Favreau is doing an amazing job as far as the Star Wars, for Disney Plus, but for some reason I find myself like wanting to like them and giving them a shot, but then
it's not for you.
Just not for me, because I started watching the first episode of Boba Fett because there was so much fanfare for it, and I watched the first episode and I was like, just moved on to a different series.
There's a lot of content on TV right now. Connor says Flash is supposed to have Michael Keaton. Yes, he is coming back for the Flash, for Batgirl, and I think he's around to stay. He's
not only that, we also have Batfleck coming back. All right, so Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck are coming back. Don't you put some respect on Ben Affleck's Batman.
So anyway, Obi-Wan, I'm really excited for the show, even though I haven't caught up on Book of Boba Fett. I love Ewan McGregor as that character. This is something that fans have been waiting a long time for. And watching that trailer, I was like, damn, I'm going to be watching it day one. I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I'm definitely a casual fan. But the stuff I really like in that universe. So I'm going to be there. And I'm really excited for it.
What's less than a casual fan? Because I'm a fan of Star Wars and I like them, but I didn't get into watching Star Wars till later on in life.
And it was the prequels came out at the peak of my childhood. That was my trilogy. The episode 1, episode 2 came out when I was in first grade, so I was able to watch those movies and grow up with it. But I wouldn't say I'm so many people read the books and the lore and stuff, and I don't know any of that stuff. I only know what's in the movies.
You're
what's
weak,
in the cartoons.
Julian.
Weak Batman. Obi-Wan will rock. Yes, I think it is going to rock.
No, but see, for me, Star Wars, I didn't start watching them until 2013.
Okay, so you caught up later on in life. It just wasn't something. Okay, so that makes sense. But yeah, I think that's going to be.
I think I watched Star Wars before I watched Star Wars.
The porn parody.
Yeah.
That's got Katie Morgan in it.
Yeah.
She's a star. She's really, really good at what she does. I'm happy for her. One more thing I want to talk about. I'm the book reader, but non Disney fan, and there's a lot of people like that too. I know a lot of people that love reading the books, but aren't a fan of what Disney has done as well.
Well, Disney bastardizes the franchises.
Well, they didn't have a plan with the new movies either. That was the big thing, is that they just got a bunch of directors to do it, and then when they didn't know what they were doing, they brought J.J. Abrams back to do the third one. And he's like, I don't know.
Right.
There's one Star Wars movie I'm not big on. It's Rise of Skywalker. That was the one I walked out on. Didn't have much of an opinion.
Walked out of a movie?
No. I walked out of it just like not very happy with it. Which, for the most part, I enjoy most of the new Star Wars movies, and that was the one that for me, didn't work. One more thing I want to talk about. Not a lot in the movie news this week. I did see Batman again. Obviously, I loved it, so I saw it again by myself. But besides the DC stuff, there's one movie I'm really looking forward to, and I don't know if I've ever asked you about it. I don't think we covered it on our most anticipated movies list. Maybe we did. We might have mentioned it. It's called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and it stars one Nicolas Cage.
Oh, yeah, we talked about it.
Did we talk about it?
Yes, we did talk about it.
Okay, there's a new trailer that's out, and I'm really, really excited for it.
I didn't watch the new trailer.
Oh, you gotta watch it, man. It's Ben Solo should have lived. I agree. I feel like they dropped the ball with that character big time. But yeah, Nicolas Cage playing Nicolas Cage, Pedro Pascal, who I know you like, right? You like Pedro. It looks like a lot of fun. Yeah, he's the best. No, I'm really looking forward to this. And I feel like Nicolas Cage has been quietly putting out some great performances that nobody's really seen unless you're in the film community.
Because he's Nicolas Cage.
But this looks like it's going to be a big comedy. Neil Patrick Harris is in it. Tiffany Haddish. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Ever since they announced this, I've been all on board for it. That movie looks great. Nick Cage rocks. Movie looks like, yes. No, I'm super excited for it, man. Nick Cage has always brought it. No matter what the script calls for, he's bringing some version of himself.
Right. There's always a version of Nick Cage, whether it be like the over-the-top acting, or you get like the National Treasure Nick Cage.
Yeah, National Treasure Nick Cage.
Or you get the Con Air Nick Cage.
Moonstruck, which he's got the perfect romantic comedy lead.
Or you get Pig Nick Cage.
Yeah. And that's a movie. Actually, I have not seen Pig yet. That's a movie you told me to watch, and I think you watched it. I didn't. I know everybody is like obsessed with that movie. I loved Mandy. Mandy was crazy.
I missed that Mandy.
Mandy is awesome. It starts off very slow, very character driven, and then cranks it up to like Evil Dead meets Hellraiser level of violence.
Okay,
it becomes insane.
You had me at Hellraiser.
Oh man, there's a scene where he's in the bathroom in his underwear and he's screaming for like 2 minutes straight, drinking brandy. Nicolas Cage is the best, and I really, really enjoyed that one. But it's Nick Cage. I feel like he's always the butt end of jokes for people that don't like his work. But if you like his work, like he is the most entertaining actor, no matter what. Raising Arizona, man, I love him. In the week of movie news, we got the DC films pushed back, new Obi-Wan trailer, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Not much else going on. It's been pretty slow.
Yes.
So
but the biggest news of the week is the baseball strike is over.
Baseball strike is over.
So we got the Cubbies going back at it soon, hopefully.
Which is good for all my family and friends down in Arizona spring training. A lot of business too.
Yes.
Everybody getting back to work. All right. Let's do it. Let's get down into it.
Let's dive into this.
So I wrote these down in order, not a very specific order, but I figured let's just go down the list.
Give it to me in order.
I'll start off with the very first earliest film, and I'm pretty sure this is the oldest film on the list. It's 1939. It's The Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah, that's the oldest one.
It's The Wizard of Oz. Troubled production, a lot of sexual assault allegations. Connor's a fellow Cubs fan too.
Yes.
Yeah. Victor Fleming directed the film. He did most of the directing, but Wizard of Oz had such a troubled production, they were just running through directors to finish the movie. Really funny story about this that I wanted to touch on really quick. This is really stupid. After a scene was done, Fleming's reportedly, Garland was laughing so much because they were giving her uppers and downers throughout the whole production.
So they're giving a 16-year-old uppers and downers?
Yeah.
Okay.
He like slapped her.
He
slapped her across the face. And then he was so ashamed of what he did. He ordered the crew to all punch him in the face. What the fuck? This is like on the actual production notes.
You're giving a 16-year-old uppers and downers, and then you're slapping her.
Yeah,
that's
I guess
the dream.
She
slapping a 16-year-old.
She laughed during the Cowardly Lion introduction, and I guess this production was so grueling and so anxiety driven. They were just like, we got to finish this movie. They were over budget, and she was put through hell and back. Which is crazy because when you watch the movie, it's this fairy tale. It's a family movie. And it's one of my favorites. I love The Wizard of Oz. It's a movie that I grew up with. It's my mom's favorite movie of all time. It's a movie that I can't even remember the first time I watched it because it was always on. Always watched it in VHS, DVD. It was the first Blu-ray we bought, and I still own the Blu-ray. It's up in front of that's the very first one from like 2007 when we bought the Blu-ray for the first time. So it's one of my favorite movies. You had never seen it before?
I've never seen it before. I didn't grow up with The Wizard of Oz.
So I just had to put it on the list because I love Oz. I love that material. I even love Return to Oz in the 80s that they did.
The only Disney. Oz that I've seen was the Oz HBO show about prison.
Okay.
That's the only one.
Yeah. So it's like Oz, but like more gay sex and like rape.
Right.
Okay.
Prison
sex. So this is like pretty much the same like plot, I guess you could say. But for children.
For children. No, but I've never seen it. Like, we didn't grow up with it. I mean, we grew up with different types of movies, you know, with my parents, you know, coming from Mexico, whatever. So we grew up. I have Spanish classic favorites, you know, but not like
you didn't have Dorothy, you had Dorothea.
Right. Yeah. I had Chapulín Colorado, or I had, you know, Chavo del Ocho, you know, those were my guys.
Yeah.
La India Maria. Like, I know their movies. But I don't know, like, I didn't know Oz.
So how did you enjoy The Wizard of Oz?
Man, I'm going to ruin everybody's childhood on this.
I've been wanting to see the Return to Oz. Return to Oz is a great movie. It's really dark. I think you should check that out. It's kind of a sequel. It was done by Disney. It's one of the darkest films they've ever done. Way back in, I think, 1985. Faruka Balk, who's in The Curse, or The Craft. She plays Dorothy in that.
Okay.
So really cool effects. Side note, I brought it up, and Connor mentioned it too. It's an awesome movie.
No, I mean, I think Oz was decent. I mean, would I watch it again? Probably not.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that I was telling Jess that I picked up on that I just sometimes say in normal conversation. I was like, oh, I didn't know this was originated from this movie. A couple songs or whatever.
You'll find a lot of things on the list that I've presented, like, there's a lot of things that you see later on that have been pulled from any of these movies in general.
Well, no, even things that I say, like on a general, you know, I'll be like, oh, I'll get you. I didn't know that came from Oz. I was like, oh, yeah. So I was like, hey, I say these things. But like I said, it's not a movie I'll rewatch again. I don't think I need to watch it again. It was nice.
It was a one and done. It was a nice one and done.
It was a nice one and done. It was nice to see her. You know, it was nice to actually see. So, you know, when you talk about movies, you know, with just general people, right? People always want to go back to like these classic actors. Right? So it was nice to see Judy Garland in this role.
Yeah, she's great, and this is like her breakout right here.
Right, this is her breakout. This is her big star. Whenever you talk about Julie, you know,
she's a gay icon too.
Right,
they love her
with the ruby shoes.
Yeah. Julian brought up The Wiz. That's the Michael Jackson remake from the 70s. I don't know if you've seen that.
If I didn't see Oz,
you're like, oh, The Wiz? Of course I've seen The Wiz. I haven't seen Wizard of Oz, but The Wiz.
I mean, but you had me at Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I'm wearing a Michael Jackson shirt underneath this.
What you got there?
It is a Michael Jackson shirt. It's right here. Michael Jackson.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
So Julian brought up The Wiz. I mean, I guess he's sidekick or something, you know?
Julian looks at me while I dress. He has me FaceTime him.
That's awesome.
He wants to see me dress.
So yeah, that's The Wizard of Oz. One of my favorite movies. But I mean, it's interesting. You bring up a good point. Like, it's just like, if you didn't really grow up with it, even though it was a movie that was so big of its time, you know?
Right. I mean, I even, because Jess was like, you have to have watched it. You know, your parents must have watched it. And I was like, no, we never watched it. And I called my sister up and I was like, yo, Claudia, did we ever watch The Wizard of Oz? And she's like, that lame ass movie? She's like, no, we never watched it. She's like, I never watched it and I don't intend to watch it. So it's like, yes, I feel like it's one of those movies that you know, you grew up in your childhood, your parents watched it, you watched it with they, you know, it's like a Disney movie, right? You watch as a kid, you're always gonna love it. For me, watching it as a 38-year-old man child, no.
Fair enough. There's a lot of backstories, a lot of crazy stories in Wizard of Oz. We can't get through all of them, but yes, the director begged everybody to punch him in the face. But instead, Judy Garland gave him a kiss on the cheek and forgave him. She was also sexually harassed constantly. Connor says Wizard of Oz is a family tradition. Yeah, same for mine, man. Julian too. I know, like he loves that movie.
Right.
The next movie on the list, I was really excited. This is probably the one I was most excited for you to see because it's one that's constantly forgotten, but a lot of directors cite this as reference for one of their favorite films. I've seen so many interviews where they would bring this up, and that's how I discovered the movie. This wasn't a movie I grew up with, didn't know much about. It's directed by Charles Laughton, but it's starring an actor I do know who's throughout the 40s and 50s was like the tough guy, and his name is Robert Mitchum, and the film is Night of the Hunter. Gotta talk about the Hanging Munchkin. We're not talking about the Hanging Munchkin. Apparently, the rumor is that a Munchkin got hanged on the set of Wizard of Oz. I don't think that's true.
It's not true.
Yeah,
they
I just don't think
a swan or
a crane. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Night of the Hunter is starring Robert Mitchum about this preacher who's after this money hidden. So he's after these two children throughout the entire movie, John and Pearl. It's set in
Big John or Little John?
Little John.
Okay.
In the South. This isn't for me one of the great thrillers of its time. Ever since I've seen it, I get the hype behind why so many filmmakers love it. What did you think of this one? Because it's the one I was pushing the most.
So this one was actually enjoyable. All right, so I'm gonna preface this to everybody before anybody knows. Tony knows, and I made it a point for him to know that I do not like movies before, like I watched The Exorcist because that's my favorite horror movie, one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and I think that was like 1972.
I think 73, something like that.
So I don't watch anything that was done before The Exorcist.
Yeah,
right, because that's my thing. I just don't watch many movies. So it's like if it was like 10 years before I was born, I don't need to watch this. I was born in 83. There's no reason for me to watch a movie that was made before I was born.
Right.
So this is how this all started for this episode started was because of my disdain for old black and white movies. So watching Night of the Hunter, with that being said, watching Night of the Hunter, I thought for the time being, it was a revolutionary type of movie. I'm not gonna say fun because there's nothing fun.
It's
about
a very
Preacher,
dreary and dark film,
but it's a dark film. You know, it is dark. You know, you got murder. You got a bank robbery at the beginning.
Yeah.
You have a shootout with the cops at the beginning as well. So it is a very dark movie, and you could see how before Hollywood started going with reruns and stuff, because obviously this was like the 40s and 50s, everything was original.
Yeah.
You could see why a lot of movies in later dates, get this. They pull from this, and that's what they use.
There's one movie that does pull from this in terms of just a little detail. You have to watch those old movies with a grading curve for their time. You're gonna have to check it out. Night of the Hunter is great. You got to check it out.
I would agree. And Tony has turned me on for Night of the Hunter. I would agree. You have to check it out. It is one of those movies that, as dark as it can be, it's just cool to see 1950s movie in that regard.
Yeah, and Guillermo del Toro, this is one of his favorite movies, and that's the director.
And I love Guillermo.
I love Guillermo.
I love Guillermo.
The influence of this movie, you could see all over his. This movie is like a living, breathing, dark fairy tale. What its background, the way it's shot, the kids are the main characters.
The way the way the preacher sings throughout the movie, that like him, it is like, how can I put it? It's creepy.
It's very creepy. It's chilling, as it's chilling, it's really chilling.
And then he has the love and hate tattooed, which back then tattoos in the 40s and 50s, that was not a good thing to have tattoos. So he has love on one hand and hate on the other one, and he's talking about it, and he's like, he actually thinks he's an actual preacher.
Yeah,
but he's out there killing everybody.
Yeah. The love and hate tattoos. There's a movie called The Place Beyond the Pines, and Ryan Gosling actually has the tattoos from this movie.
Right.
Which is, I didn't know that watching that movie, and now I know where those tattoos come from. It's from Night of the Hunter. Julian says, you guys watch any Vincent Price movies? I love Vincent Price. I did not put any of those on the list. I think we should do that at some point. We should do vintage horror. I think that would be awesome. We could do Hammer Horror, Universal, and a ton of the Vincent Price stuff. House of Wax, the original, House on Haunted Hill. That would be awesome. Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
We could do Thriller.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie is definitely, for its time, it's very, very dark, and it doesn't give you a break. Which, as you notice, with a lot of these older films, they definitely have moments of levity. Even like Casablanca, which is about Nazis, has moments of levity. Night of the Hunter has next to no humorous moments. It's like it takes off like a bullet and it doesn't stop until the very end. No. And everybody's in danger and everybody's on their toes the entire film. So this is one I was happy that you gave a chance to, because I think this one, if there's one on here that holds up so well and needs more people talking about it, it's definitely that one.
So most of all these movies for me held up and they were very well made.
Yeah.
The only one I didn't really like that much was Wizard of Oz, and there's another one that we'll get to it later. Yeah. That one just, I was like, no.
And I can't wait to, because I don't know if it's this next one, because I'm going to bring it up. And let me preface that I really love this movie. I didn't see, this is not one that was on TV a lot. I saw this actually because of film school, and then I went out and watched it on my own. It's the 1942 classic Casablanca.
Yeah, no.
With Humphrey Bogart, which is an actor I really like. But Gabe did not like Casablanca.
No.
And you didn't really give me too much detail. You just said you didn't like him. So I'm just going to let you go ahead and see what you had to say. Because I rewatched it 2 nights ago, and it's been years since I watched it. And I was like having a really good time with it. It's as good of a time as you can.
No, I mean, I felt like the main guy, Humphrey Bogart, was dry. I felt like he was mundane.
Connor says one of my dad's favorites. I really like it.
Hey, you know what? Like I said, different strokes for different folks, right?
We know you have the hot opinions.
No, and I try not to. I mean, I do try to. I want to be the Stephen A. Smith of movie reviews. All right, I want to be the Mexican Stephen A. Smith. Stefan.
You didn't like any of the story, or was it really just Humphrey Bogart? Because he is very cynical in the movie, and that's part of the character.
I don't know. I think it's just his acting that I didn't like, and maybe it's just this role. I haven't seen any of his other movies. Maybe it was just role, but I just felt his acting was dry. His facial expressions were like very one tone. So like, I felt like people make fun of like Kristen Stewart because of her, like, you know, her face doesn't show any emotion.
You just think Humphrey Bogart's one note.
Yeah. That's just the way he came across in this movie for me. The storyline, I really didn't care much for the storyline, you know, with the Nazis and all that. I mean, I thought it was weird that we have Nazis while World War II is definitely taking place with Nazis and stuff.
It's crazy because watching this, like, I was like, again, a lot of these movies, either some of them I've only seen parts of, but this is one where I was watching in like kind of a new lens, where I was seeing things from other movies that I've seen in this. I saw a lot of like what Indiana Jones takes from this, especially in the opening scene, when in the prologue. I really like the romantic story in it. I really like Humphrey Bogart's character arc that he goes on. And I thought it was really funny as well. There's moments of humor that I really like, especially with his friend Sam, the piano player. There's a huge La La Land pull from there too, which I'd never noticed before, but La La Land definitely took from this movie heavily with the piano moments. So that's one where we're on two opposite ends of the coin.
Yeah.
So it was
that one just felt like, I know it's 1950s, like 1952, but that one just 42. Yeah. That one just felt older than that. I felt like that movie was like from like the 1920s.
You don't want any. This is a dinosaur movie.
That one felt like a dinosaur movie. Like even Wizard of Oz, that was done in 38 or 39, felt younger and fresher than Casablanca did for me.
It's a movie for kids.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It just felt like the story dragged on so long, and I was just like, come on now, let's just finish this up.
It's not a long movie.
It just felt long to me.
The next one is a long movie. I think it's the longest movie that I picked.
Oh.
So preface this, I did pick this movie. One of the earliest comedies I remember seeing on like Turner Classic Movies. It was always on. This is a movie that has a lot of comedians in it. It's probably the Avengers of 1950s, 60s comedians. A lot of great people in this movie, but it's very long for a comedy. It's got to be one of the longest comedies ever. There's actually 3 different cuts of the movie. There's a 4-hour cut, the 3-hour cut, which we watched,
right,
and then there's a 2.5-hour cut as well. Julian, we are going to get to Singing in the Rain. I don't know if he got to it, but I'm going to mention it because I rewatched it with this whole round of movies. The movie I'm talking about it's a mad, 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 mad world. which later got remade into Rat Race, if anybody's ever seen that. So think Rat Race, but it's 1961. This is directed by Stanley Kramer. He's done a lot of really good comedies. This has everybody in it. This is one that I knew you probably weren't going to be that big on, but I was like, I'll throw it on there just because of the star power. It was really relevant with Mickey Rooney, said Caesar, a ton of people in this movie. I just wanted to know like how you would fare with this one. So
I feel like some comedies are a product of their time.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one was it for me again.
Yeah.
I felt this one should stay in the 60s.
Yeah.
And not come out of the 60s. You know?
Yeah.
I feel this one is one of those movies for me. At least the comedy didn't work with. Like, I like physical comedy, like Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Right. Adam Sandler, early work. Richard Pryor's early work with like, Toy, whatever.
Yeah.
I forget, whatever, Toys, whatever. Anyways. The Toy.
Right.
But for this movie just did not work for me at all. Like I didn't get the comedy. I understand some parts I did like chuckle, but it was one of those comedies that wasn't for me.
I'm not shocked. This is one of them where I threw them on the list again because I wanted to throw them like, all right, I got to throw one that kind of paints a picture of the comedy of this time period, right? Everybody's in this movie. The Stooges are in this movie. Again, Jerry Lewis has a cameo. Don Knotts, like literally anybody who's anybody at 1960 in this moment was in this, which adds to the length. It's a long movie. It's very long. But yeah, I feel like, and it was also a polarizing movie of its time. It had so much mixed reactions. A lot of people really don't like it. It is very long. So it was interesting to see your opinion and what side of the camp you
the mother-in-law, I couldn't stand the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I wanted to punch her in the face.
Which everybody did.
Everybody did. I didn't find her funny.
Did you like Jonathan Winters? He was the mechanic. Did you like the garage scene? Because that's one of my favorite scenes.
Oh, when the police guy rolls up?
When he when he's just beating the shit out of the gas station attendant.
Yeah.
And he's just turning into the Hulk the entire for 5 minutes.
That was fun. I mean, like I said, there's some moments where
not everybody worked for you in here.
But not everybody worked for me. And the premise would have worked. And I watched Rat Race once.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I liked Rat Race to begin with.
Yeah.
I only watched it because Mr. Bean was in it. And I was like, this isn't Mr. Bean. If this is Mr. Bean, I'm like actually talking or doing some stuff. Like, you're
not in tune with his regular voice. You wanted to be like completely mute.
Yeah, I wanted Mr. Bean from Mr. Bean.
Fair enough.
But anyways, I know I'm an odd egg, and when it comes to movies and stuff like that, like this one just didn't work for me. I didn't find the comedy that comedic. I think I told you earlier today that I thought it was one of those movies where, yes, it worked for the 60s, but it doesn't work for now. But other generations are going to look at our comedies that I love, and that might be physical comedies like Old School or Step Brothers, and be like, you guys thought this was funny?
Or Jackass. We love Jackass. That might be one of those.
Or Jackass.
Agreed, comedy evolved since then. Comedians back then, they just aren't funny. Julian, delete that comment.
Listen, I told you, I feel like Richard Pryor revolutionized comedians because your claim was, these are the funniest comedians
of their time.
Of their time.
Yeah.
But to me, a comedian is what like Richard Pryor would be, or back then before we knew all the wrong that he was, but like a Bill Cosby type of comedian where you're just standing up.
We don't endorse Bill Cosby.
We don't. But I'm just saying, like those type of
It seems like everybody's agreeing with you because Julian and Connor are both saying that older comedies really don't work for them. He's saying Dr. Strangelove works for him. That's a great movie.
Yes, we would probably get killed with today's jokes, and you're going to get killed with 90s jokes.
Yeah. For me, it works. Definitely somebody who, I really love Looney Tunes and woke up in the morning to watch The Stooges on AMC. They would rerun it. This is one of those movies. I'm like, oh my God, everybody that I see like in these morning movies, they're in this movie. Right. It definitely has aged a lot. Something I do appreciate about this movie is that when this movie was made, it was made on this grand epic structure, which is like you never see that in a comedy. Comedy now goes on Netflix or something, but this at that time was like, we're going to put this in movie theaters. It's a big event. It's going to have an intermission. Right. But it's definitely a movie of its time. The comedy's not going to work for everybody.
No.
This is definitely one of those movies. But I thought it would have painted a good picture. I think for the most part it did. You got a sense of like what everybody in this was at that time period. We can talk about dead babies and rape and shit. Imagine saying that. Oh my God. I don't think you can. I think there was like things you could joke about.
I don't think you could joke about rape now.
No, I think rape's done. Like, there's no more rape jokes in anything.
You could probably joke about dead babies.
Dead babies is fine.
I'll give that a
That's
pass.
totally fine. Yeah.
And shit's always funny.
Yes. The next movie, you've told me your opinion on it, so I know what that is. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's one of the most influential movies ever made. It's directed by Alfred Hitchcock. It stars one of my favorite screen actresses ever to grace the silver screen, Grace Kelly, and one of the best leading men ever, Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
And the film is Rear Window.
Rear Window.
What are your thoughts on Rear Window?
What an influential movie. So I'm not okay. So I'm not. I have watched Psycho. I have watched Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, and I have watched The Birds.
Okay.
So I'm not like.
You're not a novice.
I'm not a novice when it comes to Hitchcock. That's the only two movies I've seen of himself.
So you know enough. You know what he's a big deal.
Right. I know he's a big deal. Obviously, anybody who hasn't even watched a Hitchcock movie knows who he is and what he's done, right? So Rear Window, though, that movie was such a game changer for the genre. I'm
gonna bring up Vertigo later because I'm on the opposite end of you there, Connor. Which I love Vertigo, but I'm on the opposite end, and I'll get to my
so we watched for my assignment that Tony gave me. I watched both Rear Window and Vertigo, and I watched one night was Rear Window, and then the next night was Vertigo.
Yeah.
I didn't watch them back to back. I probably should have, but I didn't. Anyways, to me, Rear Window was better than Vertigo. It was just the whole concept of it, the way that the apartment complex is construct, the way the suspense starts, and the windows that he's looking through. You know what though? I'm a bit of a peeping Tom though, so that's maybe why I love
movies about voyeurism.
I love voyeurism.
Yeah, I love movies about that. And it's not in like a creepy way. It's just like
no, mine's in a creepy way.
Okay, that works too.
Okay,
but you know what? There's a famous director, Brian De Palma, one of my favorite directors. There's a famous quote where he says, "Hey, I like how women look. I like pretty women, and I like them in dangerous situations." That was his reasoning for movies about voyeurism, and maybe that's yours. That's fine. And I think this
it's not just pretty women. You look at it like a guy or whatever.
You look at guys, and
you just wonder what a guy's doing in an apartment or a house.
Like eating a sandwich or something.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Sometimes, like, what you put on your sandwich, like, dude, like, how do you spread your sour cream on your sandwich?
Yeah, Why do you put sour cream on the sandwich?
I don't know. Don't you? Doesn't everybody put sour cream on their sandwich?
I don't know. Anyway, what do we think? This is
listen. So one of my favorite movies from the 2000s, not 2010s, the 2000s, is Disturbia.
Right? A great movie.
So prior to this, I've heard that a lot of people mention, it's some sort of Hitchcockian or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I guess, I watched Rear Window. It's like, okay, so freaking Disturbia is a total ripoff of, Rear Window.
Right.
So I don't know. Just with that being said, I really enjoyed Rear Window a lot. What I don't get, and you still get that trope, is when you get like 60-year-old men with like beautiful 20-year-old women.
This was a thing in the 50s.
It still is, though.
It still is. And in this movie, Jimmy Stewart was kind of like the Tom Hanks of his time. He was always like the everyman type thing.
Right.
He always played that character. He's one of my favorites. I love how he's out of anybody in the 50s that's so memorable and their acting works still. He's one of those guys for me. I could recommend any of his movies, and I think most people will find him to be very entertaining. But I do agree with that. And there's one person that would agree with you that started to get really self-conscious about that. The actor Cary Grant. He did not like the idea of that. He was, I think, around 55 to 56, and he started to realize, hey, I'm getting older now. Can you please stop pairing me with women that are like 25 years old? Because it's getting a little weird. He started to get self-conscious about his age.
I will agree with you at this point now, seeing how I've seen 2 Jimmy Stewart movies, that he's really
awesome.
Good.
Like he really is the OG of his time. Like he was like, and it goes back to him being the everyman. Like even in Vertigo, you're following him in every single situation.
Should we just go into Vertigo at this point?
Yeah.
Did you have?
No. I love Rear Window. I love any movie that has the voyeurism set up.
Right.
So I love Disturbia. Fright Night is so heavily influenced by Rear Window. There's a movie called The Bedroom Window from the 80s with Steve Guttenberg. Great movie. Definitely recommend that one.
So you say Guttenberg, not Gutenberg?
I say Guttenberg.
Okay.
But another great Hitchcock influence there. So I really love anything that has this sort of setup. And there's a movie, Kimmy, which I mentioned on one of the episodes. Right. Same setup as well with Zoe Kravitz. So Rear Window is one of my favorites. I love it.
Yeah, so did I. I think that one, if I'm gonna own any one of these movies, Rear Window would be like.
You should get the 4K, man. It's beautiful.
First on my list.
It's beautiful. Let's jump into Vertigo. This is from 1958. This is seen as one of the greatest films of all time.
Yes.
A lot of Hitchcock movies are seen as some of the greatest of all time. There's a reason he was the man. He was the Quentin Tarantino. He was the Scorsese. Like he was.
Which this movie bombed though.
Yeah.
This movie bombed at the box office. Hitchcock blamed it on Jimmy Stewart because he said Jimmy Stewart couldn't just bring it in anymore.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Stewart, well,
Hitchcock was known as he was a real dick.
Yeah, he created a rift between them two, and this was the last movie they worked on together.
It also stars Kim Novak, who's really good in the movie. Grace Kelly's definitely my favorite of the time period, her and Audrey Hepburn. But Kim Novak was very beautiful in this movie. She made a great pairing with him, and the visuals are like crazy in this. There's some really cool eye-popping sequences that I loved.
That is my problem with those movies. You're just talking about eye-popping. What?
That time.
Eye-popping gray?
Yeah.
This is just a gray. Why are you eye-popping
Vertigo
gray?
was not in gray, though. It's in color. Were you watching Vertigo in black and white?
I thought it was black and white.
How did you find a black and white copy of a movie?
I don't know. But I'm just saying is, we were watching some of these movies, and you're talking about like
they're just meshing together.
They're meshing together, black and white, popping color, gray. Let's get some grayscale in here.
So I love Vertigo. I think it's great. I think Tarantino puts it in a way where Vertigo's a really great movie, but I feel like De Palma gets that idea a little bit better. And it's hard to explain. There's a movie called Body Double that De Palma did in the 80s. I love this movie. It borrows a lot of stuff from Vertigo. I think that movie uses the concept of the body double a little bit better. And it can do more because it's rated R. So a lot of the things Hitchcock couldn't do, they do in that movie. But Vertigo is one of the most influential movies. Hat tipped off to it. I still love it, and I had a lot of fun rewatching it too.
The storyline is really nice. It's really
and I love noir. So
and it was like it's
a detective movie.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a detective movie. You know what Jimmy Stewart has to go through because he really falls in love with the girl.
You know, here's my problem with him though. He's the king of just like curving any girl that is interested in him coming his way.
Oh, for the one that's like not interested in him and like he finally gets at the end.
Yeah, you know, well, his friend that keeps trying to get him to go on a date, like he's just like, I don't want to date you, like we're friends or whatever.
Right.
Or Grace Kelly throughout the entire runtime of Rear Window just wants to have sex with him, and she's like, I think there's like things going on across the street. I want to look over there. Like he just has no interest in anybody that has interest in him. But throughout this whole runtime, he's like chasing after Kim Novak, trying to figure out if she's the girl that he's been in love with. There's a lot of darkly humorous moments in this that I love that Hitchcock does too. He's known for his black comedy, and he does it really well.
No, he does. He did it. I mean, that's why he's considered one of the greatest directors of all time.
Yeah,
you know, he does it. He does everything, and he revolutionized, you know, the way movies were shot, the ways movies were made, plots and things of that nature. He was really good at that. So you know, you gotta give him props to these two movies that he's done. You know. Done really great. Like I said, I do prefer Rear Window over
me too.
Vertigo, but Vertigo is going down as one of his best movies of all time. I mean, I saw something that they said that Citizen Kane used to be the greatest movie of all time. Now that's been replaced by Vertigo.
I've seen a lot of people say that. Oh, hey, Destiny's over here. How's it going? We're talking about Hitchcock right now, Vertigo. Yeah, no, I
Tony made me watch old movies that were done before 1973.
So we're talking about old classics right now. We talked about Vertigo, and I'm happy you feel this way about Hitchcock because that was something that I was worried. I'm like, I wonder how Gabe's gonna feel about Alfred Hitchcock because I don't think Vertigo is nearly the best movie of all time.
Hey, listen, I'm just relaying information that I read on the interwebs saying that Citizen Kane is no longer the greatest movie of all time.
And the internet does not lie.
And it's Vertigo now.
But I could definitely see that.
How did you like Rear Window?
I just watched Rear Window earlier this year. I still have to watch Vertigo. Vertigo's great.
Because I actually watched it for the first time, so I thought Rear Window was great.
Let's see. I want to jump into. So there's one movie I'm going to mention real quick. You didn't get a chance to see it. It was on my list. I'm just going to throw it out there. It's called The Innocents. It's from 1961. It stars Deborah Kerr, directed by Jack Clayton. This is one of the scariest movies of the 60s. I will stand by that. I hope you watch it. It is creepy. It's about a governess looking after these children at a mansion. Anything you can think of from that time period with candlelit old hallways and stuff.
Right.
It's scary. This is a really scary
pre-electricity.
Anything like I mean, little kids are playing with like dolls and imaginary friends and stuff. So, and they're British too. British kids are weird. They're just really fucking weird.
British people in general. That's why I don't like.
I don't know what it is about it. Well, I love that guy. But The Innocents is a very good movie. I would urge you. You've liked everything Hitchcock. I think you would love this. It's very Conjuring-like. That's a movie that I urge anybody that hasn't seen it or heard of it, watch The Innocents. I love that movie. I really enjoyed it. I grew up watching Disturbia, so I love. Yeah, Disturbia. I
just said that, right? I was like, I love Disturbia so much in like the 2000s that when I watched Rear Window, it was just like instant Disturbia.
Can we talk about Shia LaBeouf? Was like, for me, it was so nostalgic when thinking back on that time of him. I know now he's like, he's got his issues, but when I think of when he was on the come up, I'm like, man, like I missed that Shia. Holes, Transformers, Disturbia, Eagle Eye. Like the dude was everywhere.
Even Stevens.
Even Stevens is one of the best kids shows on Disney. It was like really, really funny.
I'd prefer to watch an Even Stevens over Lizzie McGuire.
Oh, 100%. The cast was awesome. Everybody in that show was great. I love Even Stevens. And Disturbia really holds up. I watched it a few months ago or like a year ago, and I fucking love that movie, man. It's really, really good.
Yes.
Okay, so we talked about The Innocents. I mentioned that one real quick. That's one that you didn't get to.
No, I did not get to.
But yes, everybody watched The Innocents. It's really, really good. Some Like It Hot. Billy Wilder, who's one of the best comedy directors of all time. I don't know if you know that, but he's directed so many great comedies. This stars Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis is the father of Jamie Lee Curtis, ex-husband of Janet Leigh. You guys see Mommy Dearest?
No, but I used to live with a Mommy Dearest.
The Mommy Dearest is a really fun movie. It's really messed up. It's really fun. Mommy Dearest is really, really good.
Okay. Is it on my list again?
Well, yeah. It's a different kind of movie. It's a very corny
like Rosemary's Baby?
No, it's
like
you just have to watch it. You just have to watch it. That's one of my mom quotes that one a lot. So Some Like It Hot. This is a revolutionary comedy of its time. This is a movie that's been borrowed and aped on so many times in movies like Tootsie, Mrs. Doubtfire, Big Mama's House.
Basically, any man that goes drag.
White chicks, like any woman or man that goes drag. This is that movie. I just rewatched Disturbia again the other night because of Rear Window. I haven't seen The Innocents or Mommy Dearest. Mommy Dearest is a fun movie. It's one of those midnight movies. Like it's something that you quote. It's very, again, cheesy. Joan Crawford. It's a fun movie. It's hard to really like break it down, but it's pretty much about this abusive mother who's terrible to her children. And it's a true story too, which makes it all the more fun to watch.
You talk about Some Like It Hot, but you didn't mention the biggest star of Some Like It Hot.
Oh, Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, who was everywhere at this time, and she is an icon.
She still is.
She can do it all. She could sing. She can act. She's very funny. She's very quirky. Our president loved her, so there's that.
One of the greatest baseball players of all time loved her.
Yeah. So what did you think of Some Like It Hot?
So going back to comedies, this worked more as a comedy for me than Mad.
I had a feeling this one was going to work better for you because their chemistry between Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis, it's very much something that can be carried over. You know what I mean? Because throughout comedies, as long as the two leads go back and forth and they're spitballing, that carries on better than slapstick.
Like an Owen Wilson and...
It's like Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. It's like Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson. It's like anybody that's a double parent.
Basically Owen Wilson and with...
It's Owen Wilson with anybody because Owen Wilson is just
Wilson
the best.
And Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah. No.
That's my Jennifer Lopez mention of the show.
Okay. But Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, you pair him with anybody, he was like the Will Ferrell of his time. You pair him with anybody, the guy's just really funny.
Right.
So I was happy that you reported back that you really enjoyed this one because they work. That they're the starting point of the movie. They have to work for the movie to work.
And Marilyn Monroe is the first movie I've actually seen her in some.
And this is a good one to watch her in.
And she was definitely like you can't.
She's charming, man.
She is.
How racist were these movies? I want to get to the racism part. There is a movie on here that is incredibly racist.
So not only racist,
but I think just insensitive.
It's insensitive because as a brown person, I can't call these movies racist because at that time, and I'm not advocating for racism.
Yeah.
But it's a product of its time.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't really fault them. You know, can I fault them if they did blackface in 2022? Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Can I fault them if they pulled some of the moves that they did in that movie? Yes.
Julian says all white cast racist.
But I can't really fault any of these movies because it's done at that
You
time,
have to go in it with that mindset that some of these movies just aren't. There's I forgot who does it. Somebody puts a warning up. Maybe it's Disney, where it's just the views of what's happening in this movie just does not
they did that with
reflect.
Trap.
They did that with Lady in the Trap. Does not reflect what, like, you know, by today's standards.
Because
Right.
I'm not advocating for racism.
He's just quoting me. That's what I said, apparently. No, but you know what? Here's the thing. With this movie, with
Something Like It Hot.
Something Like It Hot, towards the end of the movie, and if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, the movie's like around for
It's like
60
70 years old.
Right. So I'm going to spoil the ending of this movie. So if you haven't seen it, you know.
That's on you.
That's on you. Like it was on me. Anyways.
Oh, man, I was just getting around to watching that.
Right.
Steve Martin, The Jerk. So I was doing anything like around 61 and then before. We could do an episode on The Jerk, maybe down the line, best Steve Martin movies, which is one of my favorites.
Father of the Bride.
Oh man, I love those.
But no, this movie at the end, when one of the guys comes out as drag, the millionaire's like, I don't care.
I don't care. Everybody's got their problems.
Right.
That dude was just like, and it reminded me.
And I'm just like, so back then though, being gay was, according to Jazz, was illegal. Like you couldn't be gay in the 50s or 60s.
Well, it was something that they hit a lot too.
They had anti-sodomy laws.
Yeah.
So you couldn't ass fuck back in the days.
That's crazy.
Like at all.
You need like a license to ass fuck.
Like she looked up the law, right? And it said you couldn't ass fuck another man, you couldn't ass fuck a woman, you couldn't ass fuck animals. Like they had to put the law.
Well, that's
just
animals. Like a moral thing. You really shouldn't just do anything.
And you couldn't ass fuck children. Like that was the law. Like for those 4 things, you couldn't ass fuck.
I think at least 3 of those things are still the law.
No, they're not. Because Illinois was the first state the state that we live in. Illinois was the first state to repeal anti-sodomy laws. So now ass fucking is just, you could do like, all the ass fucking you want in Illinois.
It's the new fad. Queen video, I Want to Be Free, they all dressed up in drag and it caused a lot of problems. That is true. It did. Some Like It Hot. There's a joke in here. You brought up the millionaire, who's really funny in this too. He's one of the best side characters in the movie. That whole joke they take from White Chicks definitely takes from here with the Terry Crews character. I totally saw there's so many movies that we've seen and we really like, and you could see Some Like It Hot was influential on all of that.
I mean, what would you say though, right? Is because we're in a season of Hollywood, right? For many years now, many decades at this point of remakes and reruns. Like, what would you say would be like the end year of like originality in Hollywood? Because at this point, right, everything's a remake or everything that's been done that you're redoing is sort of like a retelling of a story that was done. I feel like anything with like, as far as movies are concerned, anything that was done from like the silent era to maybe, I don't know, 60s or 70s is all original movies.
It's all original stuff, right? Man. The Wayans brothers recycled a ton of oldie movie characters and concepts. They do. And
I consider the Wayans brothers and the whole Wayans family to be comedic geniuses.
They are 100%. They are.
Keenan, Damon.
They have to be on there, man.
Sean, Marlon.
Julian says 2010. I would say, I read an interesting article where the cutoff of the original movie happened with I read this article in the Hollywood Reporter where studios stopped investing in movies. And there was one big movie that they were mentioning. It was John Carter of Mars, which is based on the books of Edgar Rice Burroughs, who created Tarzan. But that movie flopped so badly.
John Carter
flopped so badly. It's an original movie, but it's based off the books technically. And it predates Star Wars and all that stuff. Disney lost so much money on it that a lot of these big studios says, we don't want to do that. We don't want to make that anymore. But I mean, it goes back to what I said. I credit Netflix and all these things You're not going to see a lot of big original movies because a lot of that stuff's going to TV, going to streaming. One other thing that I love about Some Like It Hot is the setup. The whole story is just classic comedy. It's just like no brainer. This is a funny situation. These two guys who are musicians in Prohibition era Chicago who are on the run from the Italian mafia because they witness a murder. So they become these girls in this all-girl band. Yes. And it's a fun movie. It's really fun. There's hijinks, not too much physical humor, and it doesn't need it.
It doesn't need it because
they're
of the
so
rapport.
funny.
Yeah,
they're
really
back
funny.
and forth, their chemistry. And I love how you brought up Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn because I couldn't help but think of those guys. I'm like, I could totally see if they ever did a remake back in like 2003 or 2004. I'm like, those are the two guys that would no brainer be the stars of this.
Right. I mean, I love anything.
Those two guys together have electric chemistry.
Yes, they do. Like I can't
move Chicago. Yeah, it's a Chicago movie. You can say, man, the first 30 minutes are in Chicago. Marilyn Monroe is awesome. She's a star in the movie.
She's a beautiful woman. You know, I told Jess, I was like, put her on my list, but you know, she's there. So
keep her for later.
Necrophilia.
Another movie that I want to mention really quick. You did not get a chance to watch it. It is 1952's Singing in the Rain.
I did not.
It is co-directed by Gene Kelly. He also stars in the movie. This is an incredibly influential musical, one of the best ever made. It's very short. It's about 99 minutes.
Better than Sound of Music?
I love this movie. Debbie Reynolds is also in it. She co-stars. She's a star in this movie. She's also the mother of Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia. Such a charming movie, and it's really. I feel like you would have liked it. I know you're not a big fan of musicals, right?
Depends on the musical.
I feel like you would have had fun with this because this is a really cool setup. It's about an aging movie star at the height of the silent film era becoming the talkies. So this is at the transition where a lot of movies were, we need dialogue now.
Okay, so one of the musicals I like, and you brought this up, is Rock of Ages. You just brought up is this old guy like.
An aging rock
star. That's who Tom Cruise plays in Rock of Ages.
They probably took it from.
It's an Asian rock hair metal man. Yeah. And it's moving into like grunge music.
Yeah, and some of my favorite movies from this era, and I try to.
What I do, Julian? Why are you jeezing me?
Jeez, Gabe.
Why are you jeezing me?
The best ones that work still, these movies, that's why they're called the Golden Age, are the ones that are universal stories that can be reinterpreted and you can tell them for ages to come. Singing in the Rain is one of those stories. It's so funny. It's fun. It has some beautiful dance numbers and sequences, and it's just incredibly charming. Like my favorite things about this era is the romance and the romance between characters. Like I feel like you don't have that in movies anymore. That element of movie star romance, where it's just like beautiful people doing cool shit, I guess. And in here, it's really cool. There's some wonderful dance numbers. Gene Kelly he's like Bradley Cooper. Dude can do it all, apparently. Except he's doing backflips and shit.
You know, maybe back then, and maybe because we're romanticizing movies, right, at this point. But maybe back then, these actors, you know, they wanted to be in films and talkies or movies, whatever, right? And they romanticized film themselves that when they finally got to the big screen, you know,
it was a big thing. It was a big thing to do a movie.
Nowadays, maybe they don't romanticize it as much. Maybe nowadays they just.
And I don't even think they realize.
Thank you, sir. We're also live on Instagram, and right now I finally got a comment on Instagram and it said, "Look at that sexy beard." I appreciate it.
You gotta rock the Rick Ross this summer, man.
I am. I'm gonna go bald with the beard. I'm doing Rick Ross.
But no, I agree with you. But even like watching these movies, I don't think they had any idea how incredibly endearing and artful they were. Even with their shots and framing, movies aren't even shot like that anymore.
No, they're not.
And here, there's a certain level of class where it's just like, wow, these people really wanted to work every day to make the best thing possible.
As much as I love 4K and IMAX technology and all this digital stuff, right? When you watch an old movie like I did, you look at the aspect on how they're framing the shots, you know, the film that they're using, the way that they, and I keep on calling it CGI, but I know it's not CGI, but the practical effects that they use and how they. Okay, so we're talking about, you know, about the Marilyn Monroe movie. They made that movie in black and white because the makeup that they were using were making the guys look gray or green. So they decided to shoot it in black and white. That's the only black and white movie Marilyn Monroe ever did. Yeah. In her contract, she always wanted to be in color because obviously she looks great in color, right? But because of the way that the makeup was hitting the guys, they were turning
and
green.
It makes sense to do because it takes place in the
it was more. I feel like movies were more technical back in the day. There was more precision.
Yeah.
There was more of an art. It was more like a mastery, which is
because
why
they had to. That's the only way they can entertain you. Like we have to make sure every aspect works.
Like I also don't want to minimize, the way that movies are made now, but I feel like you and I can make a movie for almost next to nothing and just edit everything on a computer. And then that's it. Like we don't need to be technical about certain shots that we need to take.
Star Wars Part 2.
Because we could just mix mash everything.
And you could just hit live again too.
Yeah.
Gabe's live went out. So yeah, that is Singing in the Rain. And I really loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Citizen Kane, you better watch Singing in the Rain after this, Gabe. Julian is endorsing Singing in the Rain. He loves Singing in the Rain. Citizen Kane, I did not put on the list. It was on there and then I bumped it off. I forget what movie I bumped it off for, but it was on there at some point. Maybe we'll do a part 2. Who knows? Last movie on the list. This is one that I just got to rewatch, and I thought I wasn't going to make it, but I got to do it, and I wanted to get one of her movies on here, and I struggled with what movie I was going to put on because I love her. Again, one of my mom's favorites. So this is Audrey Hepburn, Mickey Rooney, George Peppard, who was the colonel in the A-Team. He was Hannibal. Right. And the movie is Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961. And for me, the way I watched this recently, I'm like, wow, this is kind of the blueprint for every romantic comedy that came after.
Yes, it is.
And it's really charming. I really, really, really like this movie. I think it's a lot of fun.
Sorry about that, guys. On my Instagram, I guess there's an hour.
Grandma loved all those movies.
So it caught off. So we're back on live right now.
Fabian says CGI killed a lot of practical effects. It did. And it's cheaper too. It's cheaper to employ and overwork all those CGI guys, which sucks.
So with Citizen King, and you better watch Singing in the Rain still after this game.
You should. We could do part 2. We could do part 2.
We could do part 2. Classic still. No, but Breakfast at Tiffany's, I mean, there's not much I could say. I really loved it. I enjoyed it. Audrey Hepburn was, phenomenal in it. She was beautiful in this movie. The way that she carried herself throughout. This reminded me of Pretty Woman.
Right.
In a sense, which I hate Pretty Woman. I dislike Pretty Woman. I do not like Julia Roberts. Richard Gere's another story. He's
a good guy. He's a good guy.
But for some reason, Pretty Woman rubs me the wrong way.
Richard Gere started in his own version of Pretty Woman. It's called American Gigolo, and he plays a guy who's a prostitute.
Yes.
And he sleeps with older women for money.
There's a running joke with Richard Gere that he stuck a gerbil up his ass.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you should look it up.
I don't think this is true.
No, it's true.
All right.
Anyways,
this is Breakfast at Tiffany's. What can you say about Audrey Hepburn? She's like a modern. She's at that time. She's like a princess. She carries herself in a very elegant way.
In a very elegant way.
She's also really funny. She's
funny,
endearing and funny and charming and incredibly.
I mean, who do we have now who's charming, incredible?
I would say that I was telling Victoria this off camera that at that time you had so many Kim Novak, Grace Kelly, Audrey Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe. You had all these people that carried themselves in this way that were charming but funny but incredibly good looking.
Right.
Maybe like Margot Robbie, she might be one of them now for sure.
Because
that feels like a very old school movie star. I always mention that George Clooney carries himself like an old movie star of that time.
Julia's lame. See, I got I got Kevin agreeing with me on Instagram Live that
I didn't know that there was a lot of Julia Roberts haters. I mean, this is new to me. I mean, it's fine. I'm not like this. Julian says Julia Roberts only has 2 good movies.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh my God, I'm being vindicated. I am amongst my people right now, being vindicated that Julia Roberts is not that great.
Yeah. I didn't know this. I didn't know you had so much hate in your heart for it. But anyway, Breakfast at Tiffany's. I guess we could bring up the one racist part of the movie.
Oh, Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney pops up a few times on our list. He's in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. He's very funny in that. In this movie, he doesn't work.
He plays a Chinaman, and he has those like fake buck teeth with the round glass.
And then like the whole joke is like, oh, he can't see anything. Get it? Because he's Asian.
Right.
And he's like crashing into things. I'm like, wow, like people really like, they thought this shit was funny.
They did though. But again, I'm not advocating for racism.
But you get it. You understand.
You get it, but you understand it. I mean, like, when they say, oh, this guy's Mexican back in the day and he was actually a white person in brown paint, like, all right, whatever. You know, they weren't hiring Mexicans back then. Like, you know, whatever.
I get it. There's a movie like Lawrence of Arabia. It's all white dudes with brown face.
Right.
You know?
So you get it. It's a product of its time.
Right.
Obviously, that shit doesn't fly now.
No, it doesn't.
But for the time frame, yeah, okay, fine. It is what it is. Like, there's no reason why to get butthurt over
everybody loves Mickey Rooney. He's super, super funny. But yes, it is. It's kind of like I wasn't laughing. I was just like, wow. I was more fascinated by it. I'm like, how did they get away with this? Like, how did they do this?
I was more fascinated how she was a call girl. She was 19, married at 14. So this movie's just like fucked up in that way, right? Yeah. In this movie, they
don't straight up call her a call girl, but for all intents and purposes, she kind of is. She's a sugar baby.
Right. But in the movie, she gets married at 14, which already, again, whatever. You're married at 14 when you're in the 60s.
What? Julian brought up a great the documentary, I believe it's called Dragon with Bruce Lee. There's a scene in the movie where him and his wife go to the theater and see Breakfast at Tiffany's. And it's this pivotal moment where he's just like, look, this is what they think of our people on the screen. And that was in the 90s where that movie came out too. So he just referenced that one right now. Right. So
And Kevin over here said, like, Tom Green in his day was acceptable.
Yeah. Well, we covered Freddie Got Fingered. I don't know if I could sit through that again.
No.
But no, I get what you mean. I mean, it's a product of its time and stuff. One thing I loved about this movie was the chemistry, but even though she kept curving this dude, she was a walking thirst trap.
She was. Everybody was like, all these girls from the 50s and 60s, like, maybe for the time frame they were sexy, right? But at this point, I don't think, for me watching these movies, I wouldn't say they're like oozing like sex appeal.
Yeah.
They're more they're just very like
they're
girl
like
next door, like very beautiful women, like, you know,
they're always wearing like Sunday outfits.
Right.
24/7.
Like you see, like, for example, you brought her up, but you see Margot Robbie, and that's just, you know, you see her and like it's just she's selling sex. Like I like see Margot Robbie and it's like, okay, the only thing I picture her in is Wolf of Wall Street. She's naked, you know.
She's great in I, Tonya. They make her ugly enough.
Like, she's a great actress. Okay, don't get me wrong. Margot Robbie is a great actress, but she oozes sex appeal.
Right.
Okay, she's not like a G, like, you know, she's not like Grace Kelly. Like she has like an air about her type of feel to her.
Like
it's
she,
just,
like
it's just sexiness.
Yeah,
you know, I don't know.
No, I get what you mean, because I feel the same way about Audrey Hepburn. The way you brought up Grace Kelly, like,
what's
you feel
going on over there?
Man, these ladies must have like lit up the room the moment they walked in. Like they're just walking on air. Like they're just on another level that like nobody can ever reach. And it's the charm, it's the appeal, and they kind of predate that. Like even characters, like I was thinking watching this movie, her character in this reminded me of like Clueless, like Sharon Clueless, Alicia Silverstone, and like I feel like there's so many movies that pulled from this idea. Which
again, you know what? I could see that. I could see Breakfast at Tiffany. I could see Clueless being sort of like a soft, you know, retelling of Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah,
because Cher, like you said, she has this air about her as well, where again, she's not oozing sexiness. Cher is included.
Yeah, but people want to be around her.
People want to be around her. She has like,
which is like every guy in this movie.
You know, yeah.
So yeah, that was Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I believe that was the last movie on the list. So overall, like, what are your thoughts on all these old movies that I showed you? Would you be willing to do a part 2? Not next week, but maybe somewhere down the line, we do another episode where I go, hey, here's another 10 movies. Let's talk about these. People love these as classics. What do you think?
I would definitely be down to do another set of old movies. Like I said, I was very wrong as far as, and I know I told you I was gonna do like the hot take and say I hated, you know, older movies, but I can't sit here and lie to you or to my lovely my fans, right? I wanted to be the Mexican Stephen A with the hot takes, but that wasn't it. But what I will say is that I had a preconceived notion in my head of movies that were made before 1973 were trash, or not trash, but I didn't have to didn't have to see them. I will say Black and White really isn't for me, but the one with the preacher really got me. So I would say, okay, maybe I could give that a better chance. But other than that, like, yeah, I could give these movies another chance. Like, I could watch these, and all these would be first watches. Like I said, I really haven't seen anything that was made prior to 1973.
And there's a ton of movies. They were making like, there's a shit ton of movies. There's movies that I haven't seen and stuff, man. Like, I want an underrated 80s movie episode through Ridley Scott's. You know what? That's an idea, Connor, that I've been thinking and kicking around.
We're thinking about it. Should we do like really an 80s movie?
Yeah, I've really been thinking about it because there's a movie I ordered that I would watch on Encore all the time. It's called, have you ever seen Summer School?
I don't believe I have.
That's a real, I think of like the 80s comedies like that. The ones that I would look up all the time. I love Over the Top. Okay. Cobra. Do a remake versus the original episode. I would love to do an episode. That would be we would need a lot of homework for that. We would have to choose carefully.
So,
but the 80s episode is one that I badly want to do. And underrated 80s movies that maybe like not everybody loves, but we will throw some love to it.
Yeah. I'll be down. But we have a plan coming up because of March Madness. So hopefully this comes into fruition. Is we're gonna try to do an episode of Final Girls. We're gonna
a March Madness Final Girls
March
episode.
Madness Final Girl
episode.
It's
gonna take a lot of homework in order to pull that off, but I think we're gonna get that done before March comes to an end.
Yes.
We want to do a bit more horror. I know that. I know I want to do a 90s horror episode. I love 90s horror. I know you do.
Yes.
And that's one where I just want to dive deep. Maybe we'll have some guests on there.
And 80s horror or 80s movies. I love 80s. Somewhat 80s. I think the 80s are very overrated.
You take that back. And I'm surprised that you say that because I feel like you wouldn't be the opposite.
Just because I'm born in 83 doesn't mean that I love the 80s. I love the 90s more. I think the 90s are the better decade.
I love the 90s. But I think an 80s episode would be really, really fun. Yes, there's a ton of movies that went under the radar that we could talk about. I mean, just off the back of my head, you brought up Over the Top. I could bring up Cobra, Summer School. I mean, He-Man. If you want, I'm not going to rewatch that. But
you're watching. You're watching He-Man.
I have no interest.
You are watching Dolph Lundgren as He-Man.
That's a bad movie. That's not even an underrated movie. That's a bad movie.
It's terrible, but it is an 80s classic.
I don't think anybody's ever thought of that as a classic.
It is an 80s classic.
I think the people that made it want to forget about it.
No, they don't. It is
Courtney Cox wants to forget about that.
He-Man is an 80s classic.
But Connor brought up Legend. That would be a fun one to watch, man. I think Legend would be really fun to rewatch. I haven't seen that in a while. That would be really, really cool. Street Fighter.
That's 90s.
That's 90s with my boy Raul Julia. Before his death.
Jean-Claude Van Damme is an American.
That movie is also bad. Rambo is the best action movie. We could do, I would love that. I would love to do underrated 80s gems or something.
Let's do 80s.
I would love to do that.
Let's do 80s next week.
Well, yeah, no, I think that could be the concept for next week.
We could do, and we'll work on the Final Girls March Madness style tournament. We want to make sure that we get
everything set right,
seating and bracket set.
Yeah, cool, awesome. No Retreat, No Surrender. That's another bad movie. That's a movie that Julian made me watch. I do not want to watch that again. And maybe you'll want to watch it.
We're watching Lawnmower Man.
You can.
Oh, come on! I watched 10 or 8.
I gave you some really, really solid titles. He is throwing out bad movies on purpose right now. You're throwing out bad movies on purpose. That's all I have to say. I think we can wrap it up here. I'm ready to.
I want to do like a whole Leprechaun series of movies, but this guy does not want to.
I've sat through all the Leprechaun movies.
You said you just watched 3 Leprechauns.
I've watched all of the Leprechaun movies.
You need to watch Leprechaun in the Hood.
I've seen it, and Back to the Hood.
Leprechaun in Space.
All right. I think we should sign off. I think let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up for tonight. I'm Tony. This is Gabe, the Flopbuster Movie Show.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you again for joining us, Connor, Gabe, everybody that popped in here. We saw Destiny in here. Jesse
Kevin
was in
and
here.
Dan over here on
everybody
Instagram.
Watching on the Instagrams. Thank you. We'll see you next week. I think we got our topic 80s next week.
80s.
So we're going to choose carefully, carefully with that. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe,
share, join, do everything for us.
Follow us on our Xvideo Pornhub. We also have the bootleg version of Star Wars down in the comments. So
I'm starting my own version of OnlyFans, just showing my feet or my beard. Weird feet.
We'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.
Adios.